Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wholeness, a Quantum Experience. I'm your host, Shannon Ledford, and today I have Sam Holt with me. And I'm really excited to have this conversation. So welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you here.
Glad to be here.
So we're going to talk about divine grace, and I am thrilled to have this conversation with you. So I'll let you take it away.
Okie doke. All right, so I have the lyrics here that I'll be kind of referring to occasionally of the hymn Amazing Grace, because that hymn is kind of the context for my direct living experience with divine grace coming into my life over recent decades.
That hymn also, I'll speak for myself, but it touches my soul every time I hear it. Like it has
many.
Yeah.
That's why it's kind of like eternal, since
Yeah.
it came into the world in 1772.
Wow.
That's when it came in. So some of the people that might see this might know the story, probably most don't, about how that hymnal was written and by whom, and kind of the story behind that. In the mid 1700s, 1750, 1760, there was an English ship captain, and he was a slave ship captain. His name was John Newton. And his job, he lived in England, worked for, ship owners in England who were in the slave trade. And his job was to be the captain of the ship that would go to Africa and pick up, kidnapped African people and transport them either back to England for transshipping from there or to America or to the Caribbean.
Right.
So that was his job. So what happened to him, he obviously, to be able to do what he was doing, he had to be a pretty unconscious person, to be involved in that, the slave trade. But what happened to him, it created the transformation in this hymnal, was he was on a trip. He had already picked up a cargo load, over 200 African people, and they were, of course, chained in the hold of the ship, and they were on the way to the Caribbean, and they got caught in a severe storm. Probably it was a hurricane. And it got so severe that everyone thought they were going to die. He thought he was going to die. The crew thought they were going to die. And the African people in the hold thought they were going to die. So they were all in a very, heightened state of fear that they were going to lose their lives. So what happened kind of in the middle of the storm is the African people in the hold began singing. They began singing, kind of a spiritual song that was part of their culture, but was appropriate to be sung at that kind of moment when they all thought they were going to die.
Yeah.
So even though they were in the middle of a storm and John Newton was on the deck, he could hear what they were singing. And so the hearing of what they were singing, because he was in a state of extreme fear, woke him up in terms of his consciousness. So it was in those moments, in that storm and hearing those people singing, that he was transformed.
Yeah, God, yeah. Those moments that change our lives.
Those moments. That was his wake up.
Yeah.
To his consciousness. And it took that kind of extreme situation to wake him up. So he continued to be, he continued on that journey, delivered the African people. And he continued to be a slave ship captain for several years after that. But then he had such a transformation in consciousness, he couldn't continue doing it. So he went back to England and quit, being a captain at the sea, and he went into seminary and became an Anglican priest, like the Church of England. He became like a priest. And in his church, there was an English fellow who was in the House of Lords. His name was John Wilberforce. And anyway, in 1772, Newton wrote the hymnal based on his experience. And I'll kind of refer to it as we talk about it, but based on his transformational experience. But he talked about his experience to his parishioners, and he had a profound effect on the consciousness of John Wilberforce. So John Wilberforce became very active in the English Parliament and eliminating, England's involvement in the slave trade.
Isn't it interesting the way things weave and
Yes.
the
Grace.
way, yeah.
Grace for John Newton, grace for Wilberforce, grace for all the enslaved people. So in time, Wilberforce was able to get the slave trade outlawed by England, and so they were no longer involved in it. So that's kind of the story behind how this thing got created in 1772. So I'm going to read it. I've sung this thing 1,000 times in the shower and here and there, so I do know the words, but so that I don't lose my train, I'll just read it and refer to it as we talk about it a bit. So, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. So he's referring to hearing the sound of their singing. It was the sound that woke him up. That was his transformation. He was blind, but then he could see.
Even you reading it, I can feel it in my cells, to my soul. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Every time.
Every time.
Singing or read it or whatever. So 'twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. So that little part there is sometimes kind of hard for people to understand. It was grace that taught my heart to fear. So sometimes grace can be very, very hard when it comes in. So to wake John Newton up, he was in so much fear he thought he was going to die. And so grace was teaching his heart to fear, but then grace, his fears are relieved. Yeah. So grace works both ways. Yeah.
And doesn't it have to, right? Doesn't it have to work both ways in order to work at all? Even if we have this connotation of grace being, gentle or something like that.
Well, because of how humans are constituted with our egos, to penetrate the conditioning of the ego, it takes sometimes very strong grace. The Lord had promised good to me, his word my hope secure. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. So after, John had his awakening and he became a priest, he realized that, this, what he's referring to here, that he realized that it was divine grace, amazing grace, that was supporting him in life. From that point forward, it was the grace that was supporting him. So that's what he's referring to. The Lord has promised good to me. He is my shield and portion be, as long as life endures.
Yeah.
So, through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. So the nature of life as a human being is periodically we will have these big challenges.
Oh, yeah.
That will come along. The big challenges are grace coming to us to bless us and give us the opening to be transformed in spirit.
Yeah.
So here's kind of the best part. We've been there 10,000 years. bright shining as the sun. We've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. We've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Bright shining as the sun.
Yeah.
So John experienced that, and he received the grace, and he was blessed that he could write these words. Of course, music was put to it, and this expression of grace lives on.
Yeah.
I guess it'll be around forever. I don't think Amazing Grace is ever going to go away. But
I hope it doesn't.
not in this realm. So anyway, so now I'll kind of weave my story into this and how grace began to show up for me, and how it relates to John Newton's story. His journey was everyone's journey. We all have this same journey here as human beings. We have to go through a process or processes, experiences, so we can be awakened to the grace and to our inner divinity. So about 25 years ago, I'd been meditating. Even at that point, I'd already been meditating for about 10 years, and I was on a spiritual path, but I was still one foot in the material and one foot kind of in the spiritual. And
isn't that the dance to start often?
We were doing. I was married then. My wife and I were doing very well materially. We lived in a 5,000 square foot house on a large lake, and had 20 acres of land, and I had multiple cars and a gym and all the material things. But what showed up was a diagnosis of malignant melanoma. And it turned out, I learned this a bit later, it turned out that it actually gotten into a lymph node. So once melanoma gets into your lymphatic system, you're done. I mean, mainstream medicine's got nothing to really deal with that. Mainstream medicine doesn't really have a whole lot to do with cancer, period, but certainly melanoma, they got nothing. So as I began to look at that, the diagnosis and stuff, the diagnosis came through mainstream, like an excision. And then I was referred to an oncology surgeon at a hospital, and I went to see him.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there listening to this guy talk, and that's when the grace came in. And this guy wanted to cut half my neck out and a whole bunch of my lymph nodes out, and put me on interferon, and I would have been dead in probably 2 years or less had I gone down that path.
Right.
For sure. Because I learned a lot about melanoma and how mainstream medicine treats it and how they treat cancer. So, but anyways, I'm sitting there listening to this guy talk. The grace comes in. There's no way in hell I'm going to do this. So I walk out of that hospital, not having a clue how I was going to deal with this like big challenge that showed up.
Yeah.
And in less than 2 weeks, what showed up through a friend, I had a friend who owned a chelation clinic, and he had a partner who was an MD, matter of fact, an African-American doctor. This guy was an African-American doctor. And he was an alternative doc, and Alan was my friend's name. He said, you ought to go see Jim, this doctor. So I went to see him, and he said, based on where you're at right now, based on this diagnosis, there's one therapy out there that could actually, you could get healed. I said, what was that?
Tell me.
He said, it's the Gerson therapy. Gerson, Gerson, Gerson therapy. So I'd never heard of it.
They have clinics around the world, yes? Like down in Mexico and
right.
Not here.
They don't have them. Well, it's illegal. The Gerson therapy is illegal in the United States.
Yeah, no, that's yes.
Because it works.
You can't patent it and sell it.
You can't have something that actually heals cancer. I mean, my God, what are you trying to do? Upset the industry. So
the whole
anyway, I
financial ecosystem.
called the Gerson clinic and talked to them, and They gave me some past patients who had done the therapy to talk to. So within 2 weeks, I was in Tijuana, Mexico at the Oasis of Hope Hospital, which was the hospital in Tijuana where you got introduced to the therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And the therapy is like incredibly intense. Hardly anybody can do it. I mean, it's virtually impossible, but I could. So anyway, what the therapy?
In case you're wondering, this is one of the most determined men I know. Like,
Yeah.
when you decide something, you...
Well, that's one of the blessings I got. Yeah, I have a strong will. So, which can come in handy.
Yeah.
It can be a trap. So
it cuts both ways.
Yeah, both ways, like everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happened? What happens with that therapy is a German MD named Max Gerson, who was Jewish, by the way, had created that therapy back in the 30s in Germany. He was kind of a general practitioner, and he was looking at different ways to treat tuberculosis. At that time, TB was virtually impossible to cure. So he was using dietary and detoxification kind of treatments, and he developed what's called the Gerson therapy. And basically what he learned is that degenerative disease like cancer and tuberculosis and cardiovascular disease and most degenerative diseases are actually caused by a buildup of toxins in the body, environmental toxins, a breakdown of cellular metabolism from poor nutrition, and also a holding of emotional traumas. And eventually, people can get sick, and the healing for that, because the body is self-healing, the healing for that is kind of extreme detoxification, nourishing the cells with nutrition through time, and the body will heal itself of a lot of things, virtually everything. And they had a great track record with melanoma. So what it consisted of on a daily basis, every hour you would drink a freshly squeezed vegetable juice or carrot juice or green juice or something.
And freshly squeezed is important because the nutrients go away really quickly in a fresh squeezed juice, actually.
Yeah, you have to drink it. It was actually made, and then you drink it.
Yep.
One every hour. So for 13 hours a day, you drink a freshly squeezed juice, 5 coffee enemas a day. The coffee enemas pull the toxins out of the body, and the juices are pushing the toxins out of the body. 100% organic food, all vegetarian, no animal protein, no salt, no fat, no sugar.
Yeah.
So I did that for 2 years and got my healing.
Yeah.
So it healed. So it should have killed me,
right?
According to what the mainstream doctors said. But divine grace shows up. So it was during that 2 years I didn't really have time to do a whole lot other than just kind of do the therapy. I had full-time help. I had people come in that worked for my wife and I to prepare the juices and the coffees and the food and so on. So I had people working like 8 hours a day. It's like 7 days a week. Cost quite a bit of money, but it turned out what's your life worth if you can afford to do it, that kind of thing. So, but I had a lot of time between the therapies during the course of the day, and that's when I really began to grow spiritually, and I began to realize the power of divine grace. That grace was everything that was happening to me was grace. Grace showing up and showing me a path forward that I could actually get a healing, the grace of the organic food, the grace of the help, divine grace. And a wonderful thing about that therapy is not only do you detoxify environmental toxins, but you detoxify a lot of emotional toxins.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a pretty traumatic childhood, and that pretty much got detoxified during the course of that 2 years as well. So coming out of that, I had a pretty clear picture of the nature of divine grace. And it was somewhere in there, I don't recall exactly where. I had heard Amazing Grace. Of course, everybody's heard it. But somewhere in there, it kind of got my attention again. And I began to sing it a lot. And, it became kind of my kind of linchpin to hooking into the grace and being aware of the grace. Now,
everyone needs a touchstone.
yeah, they do come in handy.
They do, because
That's
it's
why we
easy
have
to get lost in the ego and all of these other things and the
distractions.
collective consciousness and the distractions. And so
Right.
I find that touchstones for me are important, that when I stray, to have that spot to come back to.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I found the same thing. So coming kind of after the 2 years, my wife of 20 years supported me completely through the, through the Gerson therapy thing. She was great. She just supported me 100%. And we were both pretty successful financially, and so it wasn't a hardship financially. But coming out of it, she told me that it wasn't working anymore. I was really changing a lot.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't the same person that went into that
Right.
thing. So she told me it's not working for me anymore, and time for us to split up. And so what I did was living near New Orleans at the time on across Lake Pontchartrain. We were, and so as soon as we kind of finished the therapy, I moved up to Asheville because we had bought a condominium here and had been coming up periodically over the previous 2 years. So I knew that the vibration of Asheville, the mountains, the vibration of the area, was calling me for sure. Yeah. So, and I knew my path was going to be to move up to up here.
And these mountains are old.
Yeah, they say the oldest. They say the oldest, and anybody that's sensitive at all, when you come to this area, you can actually feel the vibration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, that was calling me, and I knew that it was going to be part of my healing, and so that my wife and I splitting up enabled me to come up here and be totally free to open to the grace and see where grace was going to lead me on my spiritual path, my spiritual journey going forward. And, over the last 25 years, I've been on quite a journey. I've been to India like 8 times, and I've been to Peru, 3 times. And I've spent a total in India 6 months, a month and a half in Peru. I got very involved in a spiritual path out of India for about 10 years.
I've done a spiritual path out of India. I've spent about 6 months myself on a couple of different trips, longer trips in India. Yeah. India will throw grace at you over and over again too. India itself, just being on the
spiritual motherland.
It is.
But Peru is also like the Andes and even the jungles, in Peru.
Yeah.
So it's kind of spiritual motherland as well.
I think when I was in India, I was on more of a spiritual path. When the time I've been in Peru, that path wasn't as clear to me. That it was more of a time of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, right? And so I was, so it didn't have as profound a settling in me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So here's like the stuff that showed up once I got up here. Plant medicine showed up. Now I had a friend that introduced me to it, and I kind of looked at it. She was talking to me about ayahuasca, and I had heard of it, but I didn't really know anything about it. And I was noticing a transformation in her because I had known her over a period of some months, and I saw how much she changed when she got exposed to ayahuasca. She had gone to Peru and spent 2 weeks with a shaman there and had done ayahuasca ceremonies, and I saw how much it had changed her. So I started looking at that, and next thing I knew, I was in Peru. I was in the jungles in the Amazon, going to do a 2-week dieta with ayahuasca. So I did that 2 weeks. Some of probably the hardest spiritual work I've ever done was ayahuasca in that setting with that particular shaman. He was a real hardcore, hard-ass shaman. He used very strong medicine and just blow your ego to smithereens. Because the journey, you feel like your ego was dying a lot. And it was. The ego was dying a lot. So extreme grace, that medicine to me, I mean, there are a few out there that I haven't done, but that medicine to me is one of the most healing medicines on the planet. But it's very, very fierce. It's very strong. It's not for the timid. And as my shaman used to say, he said, ayahuasca is for everybody, but everybody isn't for ayahuasca. You have to be ready for it and called to it. It's because it can be really, really hard to do. But big, big healing for me. All of my, I went back about 6 months after that first dieta and did another month-long dieta. Was in the Amazon for a month, did ceremonies every other day. Just about everything that was in the ego that needed to be basically broken up and expelled was. And I think I grew more spiritually probably in that year than anything I've ever done, because that medicine is so healing. Yeah, wow. So healing. All my childhood trauma and my ancestral trauma got healed. So it was super transformational. But a lot of it felt like dying, because what I learned about during that process, what I learned is kind of what holds the ego together is trauma. And whatever we've experienced in the way of trauma, it's part of our self, our sense of self. And those traumas are actually energies that are within us. And when you start letting those energies go, you are dying in a sense. And when you're in it, when you're in the throes of it in ceremony, it's very uncomfortable. So.
And those traumas are often tied back in lineage in a number of different ways, woven in, knotted up, all those things.
Yeah. So maybe you're healing backwards and forwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Big medicine.
I often believe that you have to heal backwards to heal forwards, really, because someone's got to do the work.
Well, we're going to all do the work sooner or later.
Yes.
That's the way it's set up.
Yes.
So here's my, this is my personal perspective. Kind of take it for however it might be useful to you, anyone that's watching this, is where does grace come from exactly? This thing about God, and what God is and what divine grace is. Now, this is just my personal perspective that came through the last 25 years of realizing grace. And what I learned that you can have a kind of a mental understanding about any kind of spiritual concepts or whatever, but they don't really become real until you realize them, which means you experience them. You have a direct living experience and you realize it. I felt for grace, for divine grace that's happened, through the last 25 years for me. So this is a personal perspective that has developed through my realization of the grace, is that if you believe that God is all that is, literally God is everything, including us. In other words, we are God, just expressing as these human bodies and brain, minds, and egos and all of that, but we're literally God. We are actually God. So at our essence, we are one with that divinity, that all that is, which is told beyond human comprehension. And so one way that it's looked at in many spiritual traditions is kind of the idea of the higher self or the divine self, that self that is one with the divine, that self. And we have an egoic self, which is the self we use for functioning, and which we need. You need the ego for functioning. But our essence is this divine self. So as God is all that is, and everything that's in expression is literally God, then every living thing is one with God. And so God is basically flowing grace all the time to every living thing. You have to be in grace because you exist. Satchidananda, I'm existence, consciousness, bliss. By our pure existence, we are divine. And this grace is there because we are divine. And that grace is trying to help us because in this realm, it's extremely challenging. It's by nature that challenges are going to show up because these challenges are what help us expand and grow.
It's what we signed up for, really.
We signed up for it.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
As part of the human experience that we're having in this
perfect.
moment. Yeah.
However, if one is, basically vibrating lower in consciousness and doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and we all know what those are, they're kind of infinite what we can be doing.
Infinite distractions.
Yeah, that the grace can't flow. We can't experience the grace. But if we're in alignment, and we know how to get in alignment, if we really want to do it, if we're in alignment with the divine, with the vibration of love, God is love, love is the essence of all that is, then grace can flow. But we're still going to get challenged because we have bodies, we're going to grow old and get sick.
And grace brings that challenge too.
Yes, grace, my fears, cause my fears, and grace, my fears relief. Taught my heart to fear. So my perspective is that because of the nature of this reality, it's extremely challenging to be a human being. That if you don't allow that divine grace, which is trying to help you all the time, that you're going to suffer a lot.
Oh yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, you're going to suffer a lot. And that's what the Buddha's teaching was all about, is how to live so that you don't suffer so much as a human being. Well, what I learned, my perspective is that the kind of the magic path to suffering less and enjoying this challenging dimension is to allow the grace to support you. Just like is in this beautiful hymnal, it will support you. Through many dangers, toils, and snares I have already come. It is grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. So we all go through all that stuff, but it's the grace that brings us through it.
Yes.
And we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun. Then we're there. We've run the race. We've done the deal here. And it's grace that brought us through it. So I'm kind of a big advocate of divine grace. And, that's my story.
I loved it. Thank you for sharing it with us.
You're welcome. Glad I could do it.
Yeah, touched me too, because we've had a lot of conversations, but I didn't know all the backstory. So I got a deeper understanding of you. I mean, Sam's amazing. He comes here, he uses the quantum energy wellness bed. And
let me talk about that when you're ready.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
And he actually, when he's talking about this grace, he embodies it as he walks through the world. And so when he walks through our door here, I get to experience the divine grace through him, and it's always amazing. So I thank you for that every time.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So some months ago, I don't even know how many months ago it's been now, the grace showed up, kind of got my attention about the quantum healing bed and about Shannon and about Ava and what you all are doing here. And somehow I got here and did the bed one time, and there's something here. And so I ended up kind of signing up and started going through the various sessions, in each,
the sound frequencies, and
the color rays and so on.
And
so I've been doing it for months. I don't even know how long it's been.
It's been
over a year or something.
Yep, it's been over a year. We're probably close to a year and a half.
Yeah. So
Sam's one of our longest standing members who comes on a regular basis.
So fairly early on, there was a session that I did, like I think 5 times. You do them 5 times if you kind of go in that order. It was creation and destruction.
Yep, Ray 3, creation and destruction. That's right.
Yeah, and that one felt a little bit like kind of mild ayahuasca. Had a little bit of that kind of pushing you
Yeah.
energy to it. And anyway, a couple hours after getting off the bed, I kicked into a full samadhi. I have experienced that a number of times, through the years on my spiritual path, where I was in a very high state of consciousness that was blissful, for sure. I was in bliss, and I was in a very high state, and it was kind of a place you just like to stay there. I just went out functioning in the world, but it lasted actually until I went to bed that night. So you could say I was fully awake for hours after the bed till I went to sleep that night. So after that, I realized, well, there's something very, very powerful about this bed and the technology and the sounds and so on. So that's why I've continued to do it. But what I can say for sure, since I've done it so much and I've continued to do it, is that my perspective now at this stage is about being pretty focused about doing things that raise vibration, raise consciousness,
Yes.
and try to be fairly limited on things that lower vibration or lower consciousness. This bed I have found, out of a number of things that I do every day, I basically do spiritual practice pretty much in my days now. That is a key piece. And I recommend it 1000% to anyone that's serious about raising their vibration and wants to grow spiritually.
It was interesting because when you were talking about ayahuasca and the plant medicine, and particularly ayahuasca, where ayahuasca is for everyone, but not everyone's for ayahuasca. The bed has a little bit of that, right? The bed's for everyone, but not everyone's for the bed in this given moment. Because the bed, to me, it does not let you hide. It does not let you lie. There's this truth about it, and this opening up of yourself to that truth that happens on the bed. And
that's my experience of it as well. Those are really good ways of describing it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Sam, thank you for joining me today. I've had such a wonderful time with you. We hope you all enjoyed this too. Come back and see us again. Bye now.